Welcome to Chiller Chat, another episode. Tonight, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to go back in time a little bit, about 7 years, to Oil City, Pennsylvania, at the Latonia Theater. We have guest John Russo. Now, John was technically our first guest for Chiller Chat as its own show. We actually had a desk and a stage and live bands and a live audience, so we were doing it very much like a talk show. And John was very kind enough to come up and join us for Chiller Chat. So here's the interview. I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Chiller Chat. Chiller Chat originated from Sleepy Hollow Theater, a weekly hosted horror show. It's an interview segment of the show, and now we've branched off into our own show, our own talk show. And with us tonight, for the very first episode, is Mr. John Russo, obviously from Night of the Living Dead, a big horror icon. We're very honored to have you here tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's hear it for Mr. Russo.
Thank all of you for showing up here. This is a beautiful theater, and I really, really appreciate the grand old theaters, the way things used to be.
Yeah, and we want to thank Roxanne Hitchcock, actually the theater owner, for providing theater for us today. So thank you, Roxanne. And we also have Jamie here today, Jamie
Hi,
Rossi.
Jamie.
Let's hear it for Jamie. Well, Mr. Russo, obviously we're going to want to know a little bit about Night of the Living Dead. Everybody wants to hear about that, including us. How did you become interested, first of all, in writing?
Well, I had a crazy thing happen when I was in 4th grade where we had a substitute teacher. She didn't know how brilliant I was, see. So, really, I did have top grades in that school. And she wanted us to write a poem when I'd never written a poem, and neither had anybody else in 4th grade at that time. So I wrote a poem. She went around desk to desk and looking at these poems, and she accused me of copying mine out of the book. So she spent the whole rest of the class time going through not just the English book that we had, but all the other books in the library. Little library was just a set of bookshelves. And she couldn't find where I had copied.
She was out to get you.
Yeah, she didn't. Well, she just didn't believe anybody could, that age could write a poem that she thought was that good. So I don't have it any longer. It has something to do with autumn leaves, is all I remember. And I remember bringing it home and telling my dad about the incident. And so he put it in his drawer, and I don't know what happened to it. But from that, I got a glimmer of an idea that I might have some writing talent.
Well, it sounds like it.
So I was a big reader. I mean, I had read Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn in 4th grade, and when I brought magazines in, they wanted kids to bring more stuff in for the other kids to read, and the stuff I brought in, the teacher said was too far beyond the other students. I'm not trying to brag, it's just how it was.
Hey, this is the time to do it.
So I knew early on I had a talent for writing, but I didn't think about becoming a writer till just about time to graduate from high school. And I'm looking, I'm going to go to college. I went to West Virginia University, but I started to think that if there were a lot of things I'd rather do besides work at a steel mill where my dad worked and my brother, and maybe writing was a way not to work in a steel mill. So I started trying to write a mystery novel. When I didn't get very far with it, I didn't have the skills at that time. So that was the beginning of the whole thing. But I kept writing through college and actually completed a novel that did not get published. And just went from there, Wrote another novel in the Army that did not get published. And after a while, I learned that they weren't good enough to get published. And so the advice I give to people is that if you write something publishable, it will get published, which sounds stupid. But the thing is, there's a lot of craft that goes into it. You have to understand that craft. how to market to people and hone and polish that craft until you get to the point where you can be published. And then you have the right idea and something that strikes people the right way, and you will get published. A lot of people don't get published think, oh, the world doesn't respect or appreciate my talent, but that's not it. Generally speaking, you just haven't matured your craft enough to get published.
Just keep at it.
If you eventually learn that, then you might succeed. If you don't, then you're going to be sad and bitter and hate the world for not recognizing your genius.
Sure. Well, it was it in college that you met up with George Romero and Russ Streiner? Was that in college?
Yeah, I started my freshman year, and Rudy Ritchie, a good friend of mine, we had gone all the way through grade school together in high school, and he started at Carnegie Tech, which is now Carnegie Mellon, in fine arts. And the first day on campus, he calls me up and he says, I met this great guy, we're both standing in line, and we're wearing our freshman beanies. We're not wearing them. I think neither one wanted to wear the freshman beanie. And he said, this guy, George Romero, he said, he's really interesting. He said, we're supposed to be drawing the life model, the nude model. Instead of drawing the nude model, George is drawing scenes for movies. So
I was drawing the nude models in art class, yeah.
Well, I'd have been too paralyzed to draw the nude model. But in fact, I always tell people that I was scared to look at the nude model in Night of the Living Dead, the one with the morgue tag hanging on her wrist. I was afraid it would turn me on. If it did that, then it would change my life. I'd have to hang around morgues and funeral homes from then on. So,
How many people have that story?
yeah. So anyway, I came home for a Christmas vacation, and Rudy came to pick me up in his Plymouth convertible, and we drove to George's apartment in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh, and George came out. Viva Zapata was his big film at that time that he loved, so George came out wearing a sombrero, bandoleros full of ammunition, pistolas, big drooping mustache. He was dressed up like the people at Viva Zapata, and we went to a Dairy Queen store to get ice cream, and the girl slammed the window shut.
Can't imagine.
Rudy said it was worse last week. George was dressed up in tinfoil, like the day the world ended or something. Some creature from one of those early science fiction films.
So he evidently liked to dress up as characters from movies, huh?
Well, that's the other. I mean, Russ could tell this part of it too, but sometime after that, Russ was in the play. Russ Streiner, who became the producer of Night of the Living Dead and also played the Johnny character. But I met Russ right around then, when he was in this play at the Pittsburgh Playhouse, and George went, and Rudy went, and I went, and George showed up wearing a cape. And I'll let Russ, when you interview Russ, he can tell you why. So how many people are wondering why George would wear a cape?
I'm wondering.
Okay,
I'm
you're going to find
definitely
out the
curious.
answer when Russ comes up here, or in a later interview, Russ will tell you why George wore the cape. So,
Well, we are looking forward to that.
we became friends from that point. We were all 18 years old. And I got younger as the years went by, and they got older. I don't know how that happened.
Reverse aging.
I tell people I was only 3 when we made Night of the Living Dead, and they all believe it. Wait, next question.
Okay. I'm still fixated on the cape. What are some of the horror movies that influenced you as you were growing up?
I grew up in a town called Clairton, Pennsylvania, which in the novel of The Deer Hunter, the town is Clairton, so they came there to film, and they wanted a steel mill and all that environment. But when I was there in high school, the town was a really vibrant town, about 25,000 people. We had 3 movie theaters and 3 bowling alleys, and we had one of the best schools around, all that. And the movies changed twice a week in each of those theaters. And there would also be Saturday matinees. So I went to see just about every movie, and that includes most of the B movies, the science fiction and horror films, always hoping to see something good. I liked the Dracula movies, the Bela Lugosi stuff, the Frankenstein movies, most of which were made really before I was born or when I was very young, but they
Well, you were 3 at
circulated.
the time.
Yeah, I would have to be a negative kind of hero. But anyway, for that to all work out. But then later, especially because of the atomic bomb and fears of radiation, there were all kinds of movies with mutated creatures. Like, the town drunk would see something, then the monster would kill the town drunk, and then the scientists would try to figure out what was going on.
Of is, the guy in the beginning of The Blob who runs out and pokes it with a stick. It's like the worst thing you could do.
Well, he was trying his best.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to touch it with
He
my
might have
finger.
been having a good time. How do you know?
Oh.
No, I saw The Blob, but again, it was in that same kind of category. It wasn't that great, although it has some kind of, I guess it has a cult following of some sorts today. But then I came home from college, and, I saw Psycho when I was in college, okay? Psycho was a whole different animal. That was a really good film. But maybe not a horror film in the strictest sense at that time. So I came home on a break, and one of the theaters was showing Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which I knew nothing about, but I figured, oh well, let's go see this. Bobby Stills looked okay. And I was going to go in for the 10 o'clock show. And the people that were coming out of the 8 o'clock show had these totally shocked and stunned looks on their faces. Oh man, what am I going to see? Look at these people. And I went in and I was shocked and stunned by that movie. In the end, the girlfriend's turned, he's up here. That was a really spooky movie. So it kind of showed me that something really good could be done in the genre. Stuck in my mind. This was like maybe 1961. By that time I was 5. And the other one was Mysterious Planet, which was a science fiction film, but it had monsters from the id. So it did have monsters in it, and they were all coming from the guy's mind on this strange planet. But nevertheless, a very good movie, and those two kind of stayed in my mind as, you can really do something scary, but meaningful and good and all that. So all through Night of the Living Dead, that was in my head, and I would say, if we can make something that has people coming out of the theater with those same shocked looks on their faces, then we'd really have something. And that's part of the reason why we killed off the hero then, So I just thought, well, Pennsylvania.
Well, that was your idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, all you people here know this is a big deer hunting state. And every year we kill 300,000 or 400,000 deer and 10 or 12 hunters. So I figured somebody would get killed by accident.
Might as well kill off the hero of the movie.
Sometimes we'd be better off killing off the hunters, but I don't know. Not really. Probably all hunt. Everybody's a hunter. And wouldn't it be ironic if it were Ben that got killed by accident, mistaken for a ghoul, because a ghoul looks a lot more like a person than a deer does, right? So that's what we did.
Well, the movie, it seemed, had a lot of things that you didn't really see in movies at that time. The killing of the hero at the end, all the people who were in the survival situation gets wiped out at the end of the movie. Nobody really lived who was in that group struggling. But another thing was a child. You didn't really mess with children in movies. We had the little girl die and turn into a zombie. And then we were introduced to the new zombies. I mean, zombies before were always just the mindless plantation slaves, who didn't have a soul. But now, this was the first time we saw them as these carnivorous cadavers, these cannibals. So that was, I think that shocked a lot of people too, to actually see that gruesome.
Yeah, that seemed to do the trick.
Oh, that.
Well, I usually say, I noticed somebody has one of my complete Night of the Living Dead film books back there probably wants me to sign it. But in that book, I was analyzing it, and I said, well, you know, zombies weren't really heavyweight fright material like werewolves or vampires. And I didn't even care for. I went like everything else. I went to the zombie films when I was in high school. They weren't scary because they had this, you know, zombified person that would walk around and shamble around and every now and then try to choke somebody or throw somebody against the wall, but that's all they did. And so when we made them flesh eaters, that kind of unwittingly combined the vampire and the zombie myths into one ball of wax, and even to the point where you get bitten by one, you can come back. But the way that happened was that I was working on an idea where aliens come to Earth in search of human flesh. But the people discover these rotting bodies under glass, almost like in a, you know, how you raise tomatoes and you put them under glass until they grow up some more. That's what my story was, and this kid ran away from home and he stepped in one of those and then he passed out when he saw what was underneath. It was a rotting corpse. But so these aliens had to make them rot first, you know. And I said we should start in a cemetery, so I was working about some kind of saucer landing in the cemetery. And then George came in, George Romero, with a story that he had written over Christmas break. It had basically the beginning of Night of the Living Dead. It had the scene with some kind of person in the cemetery, and had the brother and sister, and she's being chased into the house, and so on. And I said, well, this is good. It has all the right twists and turns and suspense, and, you know, but you never say who these creatures are. And George said he didn't know who they were, what they were. And I said, well, it seems to me they could be dead people. He said, that's good. And I said, but what are they after? I mean, they attack, but they don't bite. Well, I mean, you know, what do they do? And he said he didn't know that either. And I said, why don't we use my flesh-eating idea? And he said, oh, that's good. So that's basically how we decided, you know, what they would be. And then we had script meetings between once Carl Hartman, Marilyn Eastman, Russ Streiner, George Cassana, the group of us, the tight group. We tossed ideas around and worked out some basic thoughts about what the plot should be, and then I took all of that and rewrote George's first half, and then I wrote the second half of the movie. And then we went up to Rudy Ritchie's house, who I mentioned earlier. George and I went there with the script. And George sat there and read it while Rudy was grilling steaks or something. And George said, there's something wrong with it. Here, Rudy, you read it. So Rudy read it, and he said, this is fine, there's nothing wrong with it. George thought for a couple of minutes. He said, oh, I know. He said, it needs one more siege, meaning that it needed one attempt of the ghouls to break into the house that didn't succeed, and then the final attack would overpower. So we just did that. You know, I don't even think we wrote that in. We just, you know, and we changed things like, I don't know, you want me to go on with this? Do you have any questions?
Oh, no, I keep going.
Were you the first zombie that broke into the house, weren't you?
Yeah, I was
Snuck in the
yeah,
back?
I came in while he's beating the two to death that broke out the headlights in the truck. So Ben goes out, beats those down, but I come in the back door and I'm about to get the girl and we fight. And then he wrestles me down to the floor and grabs a tire and puts a tire on through my head, which is still in here. We couldn't get it out. We had to saw it off back and front, and I tell this a million times, so this is not new. We had to saw it off front and back and do a skin graft. And I told you how high my IQ was with that story and everything. Well, this, for some reason, it went up another 10 points.
So now you know how to increase your IQ.
If you want to increase your intelligence, you don't need pills, you don't need any of that, just put a tire on.
Simple enough.
I'm going to try that when I get home tonight.
I wish you would. Do you? I'm selling tires out of the car trunk
Yeah.
after the show.
What's the price? What's the price on them?
Autographed, $40, plain.
Okay. Well, definitely. I'll take one of the autographed ones, and then I'll Facebook what happened after I do it tonight. So.
And then, yeah, and then email me.
Yes, I will.
If you get
know
good
the results of
the
this.
price will go up.
Yeah, there you go. 50 for autographed then.
But any serious questions?
Well, let's. I was thinking about talking about the John Russo movie making.
Good idea. That's why we're here.
Yes, let's
We're
shamelessly
here to
plug.
shamelessly promote John Russo movie making.
Now, this is in Du Bois, Pennsylvania, which is only between 65, 70 miles away from Oil City, so it's not that far away. How many of you were aware that this was even out there? And anybody? Okay, some people, but not that many people. This gentleman here from Pittsburgh.
On one hand.
But
Well, that's Russ. Russ Striner is the co-director. We're the two directors of the movie. I just hit the microphone there, sorry. Russ and I are the co-directors of the movie making program, and it's at Du Bois Business College. Du Bois Business College also has a campus in Oil City, but the movie making program is not here. It's at the main campus, and we've been there 3 years, and the students are doing fantastic work. The best part about the program, one of the best parts, is that Russ and I are the master mentors. We are there. We didn't just put our name on it and go away. We have a day-to-day instructor, and the students very quickly learn how to shoot, edit, light, and all of those kinds of things. But we give them the benefit of our 40-plus years experience, and that's not just movie making, but deal making. Russ and I are still the people that handle all the new deals on Night of the Living Dead, whether it's a new documentary. Russ just concluded a trading card deal with a company in England, which required weeks of back and forth, tedious negotiation for a relatively small deal, but still it's a new deal that brings money to everybody. But we do all the distribution deals, the marketing, everything. And we're the only ones that have been involved with that film for 40-plus years because we are the trustees. So when you take our movie making course, you don't just learn how to make movies, you learn how to get along in the business, how to deal with agents and distributors and every other thing that the business demands. And you don't just learn about feature movies, you start out making TV commercials, music videos, wedding videos, sales films, documentaries, all the way up to and including scenes from feature films and so on. And the students get work. We give them work, we hire them, the ones that are qualified, we hire them to work on our stuff. And so they get very good credits even before they graduate, and they get paid when they work on our stuff. When Russ Striner is on your show, he'll fill in some of the details that I may have left out, but also you expressed an interest in showing some of the student works, which we can get to you for the show or for some future show. And I think people would really be entertained by.
sure, that'd be great.
I mean, we had people from Johnstown TV station come to the class and look at their music videos. They said, wow, we can put these on the air right now. Not only the music videos, but some of the TV commercials that they've done. And we did win 3 years in a row, 3 different classes, one entered and won prizes in the 48-hour film project. The first class won Best Costume, the next one's Best Cinematography, and the third class, just this past year, was runner-up for Best Picture. And they have a handicap that there were 31 entries. But most of them were from Pittsburgh. They didn't have to drive 2 hours to get their category, and then drive 2 hours back and start shooting, and then 2 hours again to make the deadline. So, in other words, our students had a 6-hour handicap.
How long does the course last?
It's an 18-month course. It's 6 terms of 12 weeks. There are breaks of roughly 10 days between terms, and the classes meet 4 days a week. They have to take general education courses, but they do 4 hours at least of movie making. And it's kind of nice that the classes meet mostly Monday through Thursday, because students who need part-time jobs have time to work on the weekends or go home or whatever they want to do. So it's a beautiful campus. It's really nice there.
You've also inspired Quentin Tarantino, who's one of the...
Well, Quentin, I love his films. I haven't seen all of them, but Goodfellas, not Goodfellas, I like that film too, but Pulp Fiction, and when I met him at the Land of the Dead premiere, and he said, "You're the guy that wrote the books," and I didn't know. I said, "Which books?" Because I've done, 20 books, novels, and nonfiction, and he said, "The movie-making books." And later at the bar, we were having a couple drinks, and he said that, I made a movie I didn't complete, and then I read your books, and I took notes and made charts, and that's what guided me through my first complete movie. So that was a really nice compliment. And I get that from not just Quentin Tarantino, some famous filmmakers and many, many filmmakers less famous who have read those books or and studied and gone on to make their own films. So I hope that there are some people out there that want to do the same.
Well, speaking of making movies, I had a question about, now this is, of course, your book Undead. This has Night of the Living Dead in this, as well as Return of the Living Dead, both that you wrote.
George Costanza and I were at the Motor City Nightmares convention. Serena Vincent is going to be in the cast in some respect. We don't know what, because Christina Klebe has the lead, but Serena was just working with Stonebrook on another film, and she said that they told her Escape of the Living Dead's going to be next. But they've been saying that. It was supposed to start last October, and they put another picture ahead of it. They did that a couple more times, and now they're saying it's going to be the next picture. So I said to Serena, well, if you hear anything more, let me know, because they don't communicate real well. And if I learn anything, I'll let you know. In the meantime, we just cast Serena in, we're going to remake my movie Midnight, which became a cult classic. But I did it on $70,000, 35 millimeter. And now we're going to do it on a bigger budget, and we have Gordon Clapp, who won an Emmy for YPD Blue, and he's going to play the role that Lawrence Tierney played in the original. And we have Serena, and we have Billy Graham, a good friend and our convention booker. He's going to play the really crazy brother, and so on. And Guar.
Guar. Yeah, Guar is,
and that's true, we met backstage. I met so many people there, and I keep forgetting that they all wanted me to body surf. And I didn't. We were up in the balcony, we were getting VIP treatment, which was lucky, because I didn't have to get bashed around.
See, we were right up front being beaten.
Oh, you were down there. Well, then how did I meet you?
We were upstairs in the backstage area.
Stage.
Green room.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how all of this...
See, that's another advantage that a bunch of our students went to that. We always give them a chance to go to conventions, and when they do go to the conventions, we introduce them to distributors and movie stars and people that can help them, and we got them into the Guar thing, and they got the VIP treatment, which you can see it on my Facebook page, that you can see pictures of the students with Guar and so on. Oh, and by the way, we're in the next issue of Fangoria. Big interview. I haven't seen it, not out yet, but they're going to have what the editor told me, they're going to have a picture of our students with their 48-hour film project award. so on. And Tom Savini's on the cover of that issue.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?